This morning in Nurturing Big Ideas Today, which is just my little show where I talk to very smart women across the web, I have the privilege of talking with Yvonne DiVita today. And if that sounds familiar to you, it would. I'm Yvonne DiVita, and she is my daughter. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the idea that when you're an entrepreneur or a business professional, there is more to your life than just making product or services. There's actually, as Chloe has been teaching me, the need to learn how to perform. Now, Chloe has a site and a business called Perceptive Presence, which I think is really amazing, and not just because she's my daughter. And she talks about choreographing your content. So, Chloe, I'm going to let you tell us what that means because it's relevant to the whole performing idea, right?
Yes. Thank you. And Mom. and as you know, and I'm now introducing to the rest of you, that I come from a dance background. So the idea of choreography has always meant something to me more in just the terms of dance, but literally how you choreograph together all elements of your life or your business or the way you show up. And that's when I talk about choreographing your content. It's all about thinking about what you're saying and the way that you're saying it. It's really about bringing it together in a communication form so that the person that you're talking to, the one that you're delivering the message to, can really connect with it and understand it. And I think when you show up in a way where you're thinking about not just the words you're using, am I using words that, one, make sense, that two, will connect with the person in front of me, because your audience can change. It could be one person or many, and how they view the world changes what they hear when you say something. So are you using the right words? And then how are you choreographing those words from just the way that you're using them, the emphasis you're putting on certain words, and the movement that you put to them. We all embody different physicality. And if we can really learn to use that in a way that helps our audiences not only hear, but see what we're saying, it changes the way we communicate, and it creates a better alignment and connection with everyone that we're speaking with. And that's where that comes from.
Yeah, you do. I mean, the many days we traveled for dance or gymnastics, and you performed, and you're a natural. I think physicality is a really powerful word. And I think what I'm hearing you help others understand is that voice is more than just the sound that comes out of your mouth. I mean,
Absolutely.
voice is everything we do. We are the voice, and how we learn to use that can impact our business.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you can enter a meeting sometimes, and if there is a nervousness about what you're going to be sharing, and the people you're sharing with aren't, you can tell they're not getting it. Sometimes it isn't the words, but the way in which we're sharing them. And so there's a misalignment to the message you're carrying and the way that you're carrying it. And that creates uneasiness amongst people hearing it. And so when you can really think about, what am I embodying when I share this content? And it can mean a sales pitch, a marketing pitch. It can mean leading a team. It can mean anything, but really embodying the intention you want to have, going in and saying, this message is a strong one, and I need to make sure I'm getting who I'm speaking with on my side. They need to see the way I see in order to accomplish whatever we have in front of us. Then you have to go in with that energy, not just with the words.
We just talked, Nurturing Big Ideas. We just talked to Toby Bloomberg, and her word was intentional. And she was intentional about the new business she was starting called Diva Foodies. I think this is so relevant to more than just being on stage. So many of us are afraid to be on stage. It's one of the top, like, one or two things that I'd rather go to the dentist, people say, than be on stage. And in the end, you are on stage wherever you are. And this is what I want women to understand, is that when you start this little small business, you become an entrepreneur. I love that you're bringing your magic and your talent, but I want you to understand that your voice and the way you talk to the people you might be selling to, if you have a booth at a craft show, wherever you are, it
Mm-hmm.
all comes down to how you use your physicality, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so what can you teach them, Chloe?
I love that Toby talked about being intentional, because I do believe that having an intention is really important and can shift your mindset. Because in the end, a lot of the bits that get hung up in our head that prevent us from being this way is about the mindsets that we carry and the internal narrative we're constantly telling ourselves. And when we can step into a moment and have an intention right away, then we can step into it with a different mindset than a defensive one. We're being proactive about it, and we're stepping into it knowing how we want to carry it through. And it's amazing how that shifts your whole experience. I was just working with students I work with heroic public speaking, and we train people how to be better speakers. And we say, stop speaking and start performing. And the reason for that, and why it aligns so well with my background, and why I feel so at home when I'm working with the students there and the founders, is because you can get up and say your message, and you can have passion with it, or you can have some sort of intention that you feel like is there. But if you don't actually stop and think, am I going to say it in a way that will make who I'm talking to feel that intention? So it isn't just about you having it, but embodying it in a way that you're having who you're speaking with feel it. And you talking about being at any kind of trade show is a great example, because you always know when you're talking to somebody who is so passionate about their product or their service that they exude it, and it makes you feel connected to them. And then
Right.
there's the people
They forget where they are. They forget that they're supposed to be
Yes.
selling, because selling isn't what it's about.
Right.
And I love that on your Perceptive Presence site, you say, own your purpose.
Yes.
And that is a really hard thing for people to understand, because we get locked, too often we get locked into high school, where we were forced to do things we didn't want to do. And one of them might have been stand up in front of the class and give a speech. And in the end, that's where the performance training should start, but it really doesn't, and that's too bad. So you're bringing it now with heroic public speaking and perceptive presence to the masses, so to speak. So one thing that you talk about that I want to touch on, Chloe, is that, and I wrote it down and I keep it on my desk and I look at it, and you said the talk is for everyone, but the message is for one purpose. If people could get that concept into their brains, I think they would really be better off.
Yeah. And that's a quote I heard. It came from a woman named Tamsin Webster. She has a company where she talks about the red thread, which is the idea that flows through all of your content. And she said that she used to be the, I think, executive producer for TEDx Cambridge. And now I'm on the team that coaches the speakers there. So that's where I met her. And when she said it, and the reason I repeat it is exactly that. We have this message that we feel like everyone needs to hear and is applicable to everyone. And yet when we speak to everyone, nobody knows who that is.
Right. People start looking at each other like, who's she talking to?
Well, when was the last time you met everyone? What does everyone like? What does everyone's day look like? It's just, everyone is not a person. And when you can find the person that you speak to and get very specific, then that person knows that you're talking to them. And the interesting thing about that is everyone around them who knows that person knows that you're talking to them. It's why things like memes get tagged with friends. Like, I get things posted on my Facebook feed all the time from friends who just know that that meme is speaking to me because it's so specific. And so when we create our content, whether it's for a board meeting, whether it's for a sales pitch, a marketing idea, being on a big stage and keynoting, or at a trade show where you're just talking to people, if you know exactly who you're talking to, you will find those people And if you don't, the people you're talking to will think, oh, wait, but I do know someone like that. And that's
Yeah,
how we
and
can.
so one of the key things that I don't think can be covered in a video like this today, but should be mentioned, is that performance part where how you stand, how you speak. So I like to tell people when they're writing that the where you put a certain word in the sentence counts to whether people will understand and remember what you're saying. Well, from your perspective, now we have it written down, but the performance part is more than just getting up to a lectern and reading off of a piece of paper.
Yes. You can say the same exact words and have them mean different things depending on how you say them. An example we actually use at Heroic Public Speaking is the sentence, I didn't tell her that I loved her. And you can say, I didn't tell her that I loved her. I didn't tell her that I loved her. I didn't tell her 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 I loved her. That's the same words, and every single one of those means something different.
Yeah. So in the end, when we think about our entrepreneurship and starting a small business, however big or small it is, what would you say should be something that we can do quickly and easily? And then on the back end of that, how can you help us understand the need for something like heroic public speaking or perceptive presence and a little bit of that training? Because what I do is I just help the women understand, I want to take this talent and this magic and turn it into something. Well, fine, I can help you do that. But when it comes to actually then becoming the spokesperson of that brand, help us with a couple of points, and then I think maybe we should start saying, go get some training.
Yes. One of the biggest thing I think is that intention. You just have to go into everything knowing what you're bringing, how you're showing up, and how you want to have the people who are with you leave feeling. So it's a 3-part, the intention of it is, okay, so here's my intention and here's how I'm going to show up so that intention is known. And here's the way I hope it affects the people I'm speaking to. So they leave feeling like this, because that's the pathway. One thing leads to the next. And in the end, it is always about who you're talking to and what they think. That's the goal here. Every message that we share, we want to be heard, and we want our teams and our audiences to be able to say it without us, to share it, to turn around and be able to repeat it. So that means having that intention, knowing where it's going. And the other thing I would say is, as we are close to things, we tend to add a lot of detail to them that we feel is important, and less is more when it comes to sharing, whether it's in a meeting or content or a big message you're spreading. The more concise you can be, which often means shorter, not more, the easier it is for people to remember. And to me, that is so key, going in knowing what are the points that I actually want people to remember. Because you can talk at the end of this video, you have watched the whole thing and gotten to this point. If we had you stop and we said, what is everything that was said, you would not remember it all. But you would remember something that connected with you. You would remember a time that we made you feel something and you said, oh, that speaks to me. So if you go in with an intention around what you want those couple things to be, then everyone can leave feeling the same.
Yeah, and I really do encourage people to consider a little bit of training. It's more than just learning how to speak, which is really enormously valuable to people, but it's the presence, the physicality. It's understanding, if you understand your purpose, you will be better suited to share it with others. We'll wrap up here now, because I'm thinking it all comes down to like TED Talks that are 12 minutes long. It comes down to where we are in society today, where you have a bigger message, but kind of get it to that small core that you can share, and then let people talk to you about it. And then you can
Mhm.
open up, take the questions, because it's always better to answer the questions than to try and pretend you know the questions. So
Mhm.
I have to thank you.
Mhm.
Really appreciate this. We had a cancellation and you stepped in for me, and this is wonderful. And that's what moms and daughters do. But
Yeah.
in the end, perceptive presence and
Mhm.
heroic public speaking
Mhm.
are things that will suit you no matter what your business is and no matter where you are in that business. So thank you, Claude DeVita.
You're welcome.
And we'll sign off for now. Nurturing big ideas today, and we'll see you next week.